Is GQ Magazine's new NFT project good for Web3? Welcome back, everybody. Today we're discussing GQ Magazine's first ever NFT collection titled GQ3 Issue 1 Change is Good. It's always interesting when a big brand enters the cryptoverse, but the question on many minds is whether this is a legacy brand jumping on the NFT bandwagon or if it's good for the whole space. On one hand, GQ is bringing mainstream attention to the NFT space, which, as we discussed in our video about the DigiDaigaku SuperBowl ad, is likely going to be a net positive for the space as a whole. However, some members of the larger community are skeptical of legacy brands jumping on the NFT bandwagon. They argue that NFT projects created by legacy brands lack the authenticity and organic community that NFT projects should have. And of course, that's a very valid concern. If this is your first time tuning in, I'm John Ray. I'm a project lead for NF Treasure and your host here at NFT Threads, where we take the best NFT threads from Twitter and bring them to YouTube so that you can listen to them in the background while you work out, or drive. Let us know in the comments if you think GQ Magazine launching an NFT project is a good thing. Let's look at some of the artists behind GQ's NFT project to gain a little insight into the project and what it could mean for Web3 as a whole. We know that NFT projects are one way to build strong communities, but as Tom Ivey, who's the director of Edgeware Agency and the chief of staff at Commonwealth Labs, points out, and this point was later reiterated by Michael Peoples in his recent Medium article, we know that NFT communities are often the least organic communities and have the weakest bonds. You know, when we look at the communities that are actually successful, they're typically involved in shared activities like game nights or fantasy sports. You know, the community strength isn't just tied to some speculative JPEG on a virtual server. They've grown that good morning energy beyond price go up. And that means taking that GM energy into something more tangible. And that could be things like poker tournaments, brainstorming sessions, personal development, Twitter spaces, a shared common goal, or virtual and real world meetups. And I'm not saying that Bored Ape Yacht Club and other NFT projects haven't accomplished something remarkable with the community and reach that they've achieved. It's just that owning the same digital collectible by itself isn't necessarily the strongest identity to coordinate people around. It's the starting point for sure, but something that I think has to evolve into larger ideas and ideals. But that doesn't mean there's no value in building communities through NFT projects. Otherwise, we wouldn't have this channel. It's arguably one of the better ways to bootstrap a project or a movement, since early on, before those shared ideals are established, there's a financial incentive for the community to stick together and figure out what those ideals actually are. And the question is whether traditional or corporate companies are coming into the NFT space to make a quick buck or to build a community of deeply engaged users. A community that could potentially become even more valuable than their current user base of subscribers. As Peoples outlines in his Medium article, and this is a common sentiment in a lot of Web3 circles, when we compare NFT project communities to something like nation states, it can help us understand what's possible with a properly galvanized and growing communities who are all focused on shared ideals. And those ideals have to transcend just, hey, we want our project price to go up. So, will NFT projects ultimately become instrumental in forming things like new political parties, sports teams, social movements, revolutions? I think the potential is there, and you could argue that tinderbox has already been lit. It's just that people are still trying to work out all of the mechanisms and ways to grow something beyond the initial community. this gets said all the time, but we're obviously still in the early innings of this technology. And we have to ask ourselves if we want the primary focus of NFT projects to continue to be to aim for the fences and mint millionaires while throwing the best parties at conferences like NFT NYC, or if we want to tackle bigger challenges and use community treasuries to create public goods and make the world a better place. And personally, I think why not both? I think it's possible. And with all of that as context, I want to look at GQ's new NFT collection. One thing that's unique about it is that it is heavily weighted towards physical event access and merchandise. And this is an approach that more and more NFT projects are considering. And obviously, it's one that NF Treasure will help facilitate, since our platform allows any project to turn their NFT artwork into physical products and grow a community's treasury via affiliate sales commissions of those products. With GQ's collection, it's titled, as I said, GQ3 Issue 1 Change is Good, and it features over 1,600 one-of-a-kind art pieces from 4 talented artists, and these are bigger, well-known artists. It has a mint price of 0.1957 ETH, which is around $330, and each GQ3 token grants the holder access to a range of GQ perks, such as exclusive merchandise, a magazine subscription, a curated GQ box of products, and I'm a fan of mystery boxes, priority access to future drops, and an invite to the inaugural GQ3 party in April. And for me, as someone who in my earlier years spent many, many hours and resources trying to get in contact with the right people and gain exclusive access to the hottest tech parties during events like South by Southwest or CES in Vegas, I can definitely understand the appeal of an NFT giving this kind of access to physical events and merchandise. But with NFT communities often criticized for their superficiality and weak bonds, many in the Twitter sphere wonder if GQ's move into NFTs is just another example of a legacy brand jumping on the bandwagon, while others see it as an outright betrayal to regular subscribers. Because as we've covered, normies hate NFTs. And so when big companies that have large normie audiences try to get into the space, there's always some contention there. And I'd love to hear in the comments whether you think that contention and that debate is valuable to the Web3 space as a whole. So let's look at the artists who helped create this project for GQ, and then we can revisit the overall project's scope and intentions. As mentioned, each NFT is linked to a unique piece of artwork created by these 4 artists, and purchasing a piece grants access to those unique GQ perks. We talked about the magazine subscription. There's exclusive merch, the live events, and they've mentioned that there's going to be future drops and probably events beyond that first event in April. So one of the featured artists in the collection is Chuck Anderson, who is a respected voice in creative culture and a self-taught artist and designer who founded No Pattern Studio when he was only 18 years old. He's known for his surreal use of color and light, juxtapositions of traditional and digital mediums, and a constant experimentation in his art. And for this collection, Anderson used pretty much every technique and medium he's ever utilized in the past to create the body of work that became part of this GQ collection. The art pieces for him explore themes of nature, architecture, death, and the internet as a whole, fusing dark with light, vibrant color with gloom, growth with decay, artist stuff. So another artist involved in the project is Surwa Adafewa, a multidisciplinary artist and musician based in Derrig, Australia. She creates surreal cyber dreamscapes and heavenly wastelands populated by what she calls Afro-futuristic abstractions of self with strong ancestral and contemporary themes. And so, some of these art terms make some people roll their eyes, but ultimately with any art, you want to showcase the intention of the artist because it creates a more multi-dimensional way to think about the art, other than it just being a visual piece. So Adefewa has collaborated with a lot of pretty well-known clients. She's worked with Nike, Gucci, Adobe, and Paris Hilton. Next up, third in our group of 4 artists of this collection is Kelsey Nizolek, a New York-based illustrator and designer, and her work is entirely hand-drawn with pen and pencil, taking influences from ancient art, surrealism, New Age serenity, and my favorite, 90s rave flyers. I have a certain nostalgic affinity to those, but that's a story for another day. Her contribution to the GQ NFT project explores the cyclical and unpredictable nature of change, evoking a connection between the ancient world, both material and spiritual, with the future and surreal. The collection is meant to show that new beginnings are perpetual, and you can see some of the art highlighted here. And finally, we have Rio, whose contribution to the GQ NFT project reflects his unique approach to art, which combines his background as a music producer with his intuitive ability to work with technology. His collection of portraits is influenced by his Ugly series, but with a twist that's inspired by a cyberpunk high-fashion world of characters. By using new tools, he pushes the boundaries of digital art and challenges himself to create better work. His art style is sophisticated and sensual, incorporating repetition to draw viewers in and creating a world that's entirely his own. And so when you look at these 4 artists, they're well known and they bring unique styles and techniques to the collection. And really, any NFT project would be lucky to land such an all-star cast of creators. So why is there so much skepticism by so many in the NFT world when larger entities like GQ release a collection? I think it's mostly because corporate entities have a tendency of making decisions by committee and have somewhat of a cringe track record when it comes to their forays into Web3. And to understand this, we don't have to look very much further than these back and forth tweets between Budweiser and Pepsi, where each appear to be reading from a cool things people say in Web3 corporate handbook. And these are tweets that many argue were a top signal for the last bull run. So will GQ's NFT collection launch be any different? I mean, you could argue that they're taking the right steps by bringing in the right artistic minds and really empowering that art to be front and center. And while GQ's foray into the world of NFTs may seem like another legacy brand jumping on the bandwagon, their inclusion of physical event access and merchandise certainly makes, the project more interesting than some that we've looked at. It may not be everybody's cup of tea, of course, but simply looking at the waiting list for any of the big sponsored parties when you go to large music festivals or NFT conferences, there's hundreds, if not thousands of people that are trying to get exclusive access to these events. And so if this NFT allows you to jump that line, is that worth $330? I think for a lot of people, the answer is definitely yes. Especially when these parties oftentimes have, one, very interesting networking, often big musical artists, tends to be free drinks and hors d'oeuvres or food. So, $330 for an exclusive event that you get to post on the gram, probably worth it. But it does bring into question, why do some NFT projects have so much value? Why have the floor prices risen to such a degree? And can GQ's NFT have that kind of staying power where the value continues to grow as scarcity to these events becomes more and more? Are they going to use this NFT to give access to all future events, or is this just a digital ticket that basically gives you a product and access to one event and then it's over? A big part of what makes the NFT space so interesting is that there is this kind of financial incentive for the community to stay together long term. And that ultimately works itself out as real human connection if done properly. And so I just wonder, will this GQ NFT one even have the community management to even start that community? And two, become more than just a one-time ticket? Let me know what you think in the comments. You know, there is demand for this kind of thing. And so just because it may not be something that the purest NFT collectors resonate with doesn't mean that it's not a project that will sell out and that ultimately will bring more people into the space. You know, when you add in that there's 4 incredibly talented artists that have or who have distinct perspectives and styles, you know, that's something that can also help GQ escape being another corporate cringe fest. So if GQ's NFT project can establish some shared activities, you know, foster a stronger sense of community, it could be a great way to bring new people into the Web3 space. But what do you think? Is this a net positive for NFTs or another poor attempt by corporate America to capitalize on the real organic community building that's happening in the NFT space? Let us know what you think in the comments, and let me know what you think about this more scripted and shorter video format. Is this the best way for you to get NFT news so that you can quickly absorb it each day? Be sure to like and subscribe to this channel so you can be the first to get the latest news on updates in the NFT and Web3 space. I'm John Ray with NF Treasure and NFT Threads, and until the next one, we'll see you. Bye.